We continue along here on the College Lacrosse Preview Show. Patrick Stevens is in studio with us this morning. Next up on the hot seat, his team, 9-7, 5-3 in the Patriot League a year ago. Lost in the Patriot League semifinals. He is the head coach at the Naval Academy. He is Coach Joe Amplo, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Coach, it's Glenn and Patrick. It's always great to chat with you. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning.
Good morning, guys. Great to be with you this morning.
Coach, before we get to your team, obviously, we'd be remiss as one of our best friends, and I know someone who meant so much to your program. I know maybe you weren't there as long as others and had as much time, but can you put into words what Pete Medhurst has meant to you and to Navy Lacrosse and just how much of a loss this truly is for your program?
Yeah, first of all, to both of you guys, my heart goes out to you. I know how close you both were, and what you did last week for him with the tribute you had were extremely heartwarming and touched a lot of people. So from Navy Lacrosse to both of you, our condolences and our appreciation for doing what you did last week for Pete. I know you'll continue to help his legacy live on. He became a friend of mine. And I said yesterday to Bill Wagner, some of my favorite memories I have in my first 5 years here are the few minutes I got to spend with Pete on the field before the games. He had he had a way of comforting me in my most anxious times. It was almost like he was wrapping his arms around me, saying things are going to be okay, and we believe in you. He was such an expert and just wonderful at his craft, but also became an expert in lacrosse. And listening to him on the Big Ten Network and listening to him on the replays of Navy Lacrosse, he truly brought our sport to life for so many, and he touched a tremendous amount of people here in Navy athletics, and we are all mourning his loss, and he'll be missed for a long time. Irreplaceable, truly irreplaceable.
It really is incredible, and Patrick brought it up when we were chatting last week. It's incredible to think that this wasn't a sport that he grew up with, it's amazing because it's the same way that you feel. I associate Pete in my life with lacrosse. It's incredible to think that It was something that he didn't even come into until he was an adult.
The questions he would ask me were, always spot on. And it wasn't just us. He knew the opponents really well. He knew the strategies of both teams and kind of what to expect from the game, knowing he did his research. So truly an expert.
Let's talk about your team, Coach, and I think that conversation probably starts with your face-off specialist. Did you know how good Zach was going to be a year ago? And maybe was there a point in the season where you're like, oh my gosh, we got a game changer here in this program?
And we felt it. I knew in recruiting this kid was a warrior, but you never know how that's going to translate to our level. We felt it in the fall that the kid was just going to bring our compete level to another stratosphere. And then he had to deal with an injury, and our concern through last year was he going to be able to manage it? And he did. Early on in the season, I thought we felt like, all right, we got something pretty good here, and I think there was a couple of times during the year where he didn't perform very well. And then the next few times after that, he just spiked up, and that resiliency, I think he learned a lot from. He's a tough out. He's consistently tough to beat. And I think that's the best thing about him. I don't think he's going to overwhelm many people technically, but any face-off guy or unit that's going against him knows it's going to be a battle. And that to me, that's Navy Lacrosse in a nutshell. And he captures that in the way he plays.
Third year in a row with a different offensive coordinator. Ken Brochar comes in from High Point. What kind of stood out about him as you were looking to make that hire after Dave Cottle had stepped in admirably last year, and what sort of impact do you think he's having on a team on a group that it has a lot of new faces for you this year?
Yeah, number one was his strong desire to want to be here. That came across extremely evidently in his interview process, and then second to that, my evaluation of him was his ability to develop talent and identify the right types of talent. You look over the course of his career and every stop he's been, the programs have gotten better and the players have overachieved relative to what most people think they could be. And I think those are our ingredients here. We're going to recruit top-end kids. Sometimes we're going to get them, sometimes we're not, but it's our ability to develop players at a faster rate than our peers are going to allow us to be in the conversations that you were having earlier about the top teams in the sport. And that's truly what we have to be great at. And I think Kenny has proven over the course of time that he's great at it. And in a short time here, he's made an impact already on the player development model that we've got in place.
And it certainly sounds like with an offense that brings back only one of the top 6 scorers from last year in Henry Tolker, that's a good match for what you are right now as well as what you might be moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're unproven on that end, Patrick. There's no doubt. But we've got some really good kids who believe in the system and believe in each other, and I think we're going to be more of a team on that end of the floor than we've ever been, and that's exciting to me. I don't think we're going to have that, perceived superstar mentality, and not that we wish that differently. I love that, but to me, I'd rather be a great team. And I think we've got the chance to be a great offensive team this year at some point.
He is Coach Joe Amplo from Navy, and he's with us here on our College Lacrosse Preview Show. That said, Coach, Jack Flaherty, is that someone that maybe can take a next step in sort of helping to fill that void of all of the points and the goals that are lost?
Yeah, you would hope so. I mean, he's a junior. He's been around and he's been on the first midfield, the second midfield, played some man up, been in and out of kind of a primary spot at the midfield, but been mostly a secondary option for us the first 2 years. So if we're doing our player development right, you would expect a junior who's played, a significant amount of time, but not unbelievably impactful time. You would expect him to take that next step, So I would hope that he's a guy we can count on consistently through the year.
Jackson Bonnet's one of the major graduation losses for you guys, but A.J. Marsh, a guy that was an all-conference caliber player last year, I think second-team all-league. Just give me a sense of what you think he can do as he heads into his sophomore year, and also how you feel like that defense sizes up at this point.
Yeah, I think our defense has always been our strength here at the Naval Academy. John Orson does a wonderful job with that unit. They're a team down there. They've got a culture. They've got an identity, and they have standards. AJ certainly is the most talented. You can use him down low. We can use him up top. We can use him in the ride on the wings of faceoffs. He's got a dynamic ability with the ball on his stick, and he's got vision to run the floor in transition. All of those things exist for him. But I still think Ian McGullum's our best defender. When it comes down to locking someone down and being able to play good, solid defense, I think Ian McGullum, who's our captain, has turned into a really, really solid defender. And I think you're going to start to see some of our short sticks emerge as guys that people talk about, because we got a pretty good stable of those guys.
Along those lines, I mean, I was going to bring up that group because everybody thought, when I thought of you guys last season, Jackson Peters was one of the first guys that came to mind. Who's the next in line, given the number of quality short sticks that Navy has had over the years?
Yeah, I mean, we've got 5 guys we're going to roll out there this weekend, we think. I think Jack Norton, who's a senior, again, player development, he's turned into one I think is one of the better guys out there. And then just behind him are 2 young guys, Justin Queen, who's really developed nicely. He's just a world-class athlete. Josh Nagy is a freshman who, quite frankly, could be the best athlete I've ever been around on a lacrosse field, aside from Doug Shanahan. He is just truly gifted athletically and owns the position. He's a young man from Calvert Hall. And just next to those guys, Chad Connolly and Graham Parker are 2 younger guys that have stepped up. So we feel really good about that unit. We trust them. And I think, we've proven that we're able to develop those guys at that position to be pretty good.
By the way, I assume it doesn't hurt to have a pretty experienced and solid goalie behind all of this.
Yeah, Dan Daly's done a good job for us. He was pretty consistent last year, and hopefully he could take that next step. Again, as a junior in the program and getting some time last year and playing consistent minutes, you would hope he would take that next step in performance as an individual player.
Coach, I wonder, obviously you guys have been right there in the mix the last couple of seasons. Do you have a sense for what that, I don't know, special sauce is, what the missing piece is from going from right in the mix to being able to win the Patriot League and get back to playing in the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I mean, look, we all of us here would have wished that we've taken that next step maybe a year or 2 ago.
Yeah.
not that we've been underachieving, but we've just been achieving.
Yeah,
And I think our
right
guys,
there. Yeah, obviously, right there.
and there's been some spikes of success, but just not. It's consistency, Glenn, and truly, it's consistency. And if I had the direct answer of what the special sauce was, I think that would be wonderful. But I don't. I think we've just got to push to be more consistent. And now it's the first time every guy except one on this roster I've recruited. So there are types of kids, and not that that was a big difference in the past, but now they've been around and they've seen all the ups and downs and how we handle them. And the standard of what we expect is ingrained in these guys. I do think we're probably a little bit younger with our talent, just depth, but I think the consistency of our behavior has now been seen over 4 years. We just got to perform more consistently on game days.
I feel like the other thing too about the league, like maybe it's not national championship, but it's almost been weird. Like it feels like the league is kind of risen to where there's just more teams that are competitive within the league year in and year out than maybe there were 5-6 years ago.
And look, there's great coaches in the league. They all do a wonderful job, and I think it's an underrated league in the sense that we can all compete nationally, but we're not talked about as often nationally. Some of us are, some of us aren't, and I think we all take that personally. And I think that allows us on any given day to compete with those teams. And, if we spike at the right time towards the end of the year, any one of us can make a run at this thing, because I think it's a league where there's a lot of good players, but mostly there's a lot of good teams who have to fight their way through this league to be successful.
Coach, obviously the season is getting underway for Navy on Saturday down at High Point, and then they'll host Iona the following Saturday in Annapolis for the first home game of the year. Looking forward to seeing you and your team throughout the course of the season. Really appreciate you taking the time for us, as always, to do this. Thanks so much for hopping on the preview show once again, Coach.
Thanks, guys. Have a great year. Talk to you soon.
It's Joe Amplo, head coach at Navy. Patrick, your thumbnail on the midshipmen.
I think I could see Navy playing in a lot of 10-8 and 9-7 and 11-9 type of games. There's going to be some time needed to develop some of those guys on the offense, but I think the defense will be the strength, especially if that short stick group is as good as Joe Amplo believes it to be. You've got Daly in the cage, you've got Marsh and McGollum on close defense, and Navy's going to have the ball a fair bit with Zach Hayashi for the most part. I think one of the great head-to-head matchups this season that you can just circle on the calendar, and since it's in Annapolis this year, get your tickets in advance, will be Will Coletti from Army and Zach Hayashi from Navy at the Face-Off X in that Army-Navy game in mid-April. So I don't see any reason why Navy can't be the team that makes a run of the Patriot League title. I don't think that's guaranteed because Lehigh and BU and Colgate and Loyola.
Well, it's what I just like. It's not. These aren't the Patriots League's not winning national championships right now, but the balance of the league.
The league is better. Like Lafayette's gotten better over time. That's a team that you used to never think about at all, and now I'm not sitting here saying they're going to win the Patriot League, but that's a team that you have to account for. That if you play poorly, they're going to pound you, and if you play decent, they still have a chance to beat you. And it used to be that was quite candidly a game that you could count on winning pretty much every single year. So. And that's a credit to the folks up in Easton for having done a good job with that program. So I think in that league you don't know what to expect because there isn't anybody that's that much better than anybody else. I mean, I think Army's probably the best team in that league this season, but that doesn't mean that Navy can't win just an absolute scrap against them like what you usually get in that game. There's no reason that like a Colgate can't be the best team in that. Like they're just simply there. You can make an argument for probably 6, maybe 7 of the teams in that league to be able to be the one standing on Selection Sunday. So no reason Navy can't be, and having a great face-off guy in Hayashi is a good start. But they're also going to have to get that offense developed because there are real questions there as to who is going to emerge as someone capable of scoring 20 or 30 goals in a season. I mean, they had, 6 or 7 10-goal scorers last season, and only one of them is back.
Tolker, yeah.
So now he had 30.
Yep.
Now, the other thing that's worth pointing out is that was a team that shot only 26.7%. So whoever it is that's playing needs to be more efficient than that for them to be able to achieve the consistency that Joe Amplo wants to see.